Hello, Families in Action. Welcome back to Raising the Bar podcast. In this episode, we talk to Kimi Kean, the CEO and co founder of Families in Action for Quality Education. In this podcast, we talk to Kimi about her journey in education, growing up in Oakland, and how Families in Action is raising the bar via parent power. All right, we got Kimi Kean in the building. What's going on, Kimi?
Not much. I'm happy to be here talking to my guy, Javi.
Yeah, I'm super excited. This is like long overdue.
Yes.
We started this off, a year ago? And this is the first time we get you on a podcast, me and you. So I'm super excited. We've known each other for 5 years now.
Yep.
Right? So I think it's always a great opportunity for us to just take a step back from all the work that we're doing and really just get a chance to conversate a little bit. You know what I mean?
Let's have a conversation, Javi. Let's do it.
So we have our CEO and co-founder of Families in Action for Quality Education. Can you just tell us a little bit about your journey in your education first before we even get into talk about FIA?
Well, personally, our organization is all about Oakland. This is my town. I've lived in Oakland since I was 7 years old, went to schools here. And, I was a great student. I think first and foremost, when I was little, I was like a star student, got to high school, and I just fell off. I just totally slipped through the cracks. And I ended up actually dropping out of high school. I flunked out of 10th grade. And you wouldn't know that about me now. And people are like, oh, but you made it. And it was a really hard journey. So I feel like if I can slip through the cracks in Oakland education, I wanted to get into education so that we can really actually have schools where kids are seen. And when you miss school, somebody actually notices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what kind of took me to the last 25 years, which I spent really working in different ways with schools and trying to create the schools our kids deserve.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about just that motivation and where it came from, right? Because, being a dropout in high school, what caused you to really want to focus on education as a career?
The road back to school for me was so challenging. And I just remember, not knowing how to write an essay. I couldn't do college level math because I really hadn't been to high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I just missed a bunch of years of school. And when you have to crawl back from that place of just, it was embarrassing, it was hard. I couldn't get into college level classes in community college. I had to keep remediating. It really messes with your confidence, and I was like, can I do this? I know I can. Okay, wait, I know I can do this. I got to stick with it. And I just feel like so many of our kids, they have to demonstrate that kind of resilience and belief in themselves, even when things are hard, to actually make it through. And I think our jobs is we've actually got to make education more welcoming. It's got to be a place where we see kids and make sure they get a chance to realize the full gifts and potential of who they are.
Mm-hmm. One thing I've really noticed as well is the culture of the school and what part parents and students play in it, right? And I feel like what FIA does really well, what our work, in our work, what we do really well is that we really connect parents and give them, the power to be able to advocate for themselves and also for students. And I feel like that's sometimes where it's, I see that sometimes missing in a lot of our schools.
Yep.
And I think that's really what we need more of.
I mean, I'm really glad you say that, one, because you work for Families in Action. So, that's an important core value of ours. But I couldn't agree more, and if you think about the history of schools, who has belonged at school, right? Who has a position of power at school? It's not often the families we work with,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're really on a mission. We have to totally change that paradigm, right? Like, families are hella smart. They are hella capable. And if they're not at the center of a school experience, we're really missing out.
Mm-hmm.
We're really overlooking a great source of power in our schools if families are not sitting at the table with us. And so that's just, for me, it's just such a fundamental core belief. And if you just think about it, traditionally our school staffs have been more white, maybe not from the community. Think about what happens if we're leaving out our Black and brown families who depend on our public schools. When we're leaving them out of the leadership equation in a school, it's a racist paradigm. We're better than that. We got to overcome that, and we've got to be able to see. And I think that's what we prove every day. At Families in Action, we prove it every day. Our parents are smart. They're capable. When they have the opportunity, when they can build some knowledge and skill and confidence, they're game changers in our schools, and I think that's what we're about. Is let's unlock that power of parents together.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And so you went from being a high school dropout to
Mm-hmm.
going back and getting your education,
Yep.
right? Can you tell us a little bit more about, what was your first step into this career of education that you were in?
Ah, good question. Well, I will say, so when I was in college, the first thing I loved doing, I got involved in student government at Laney. It was a great experience for me. I got involved in cultural organizing in the Asian Pacific Islander community. And I just found my people and I found my place and I felt really a part of a community and that I could really serve and contribute. So when I transferred to Berkeley, I got involved in working with youth in Oakland and Richmond who really don't see themselves on a path to college. And I love that. So we would bring them to the campus, we'd mentor, shadow them, just have like some really fun experiences so they could really think about the public university as their university as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
started off there with off track adolescence and I loved it. But then I actually needed a job that like paid well. and so,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved education. So I decided to become a teacher. And I got trained to be a teacher. I got hired over the phone. I was a founding teacher at Acorn Woodland, which I didn't really know. I was coming into Oakland at this incredible time of opportunity. There had been thousands of parents in the streets protesting about the quality of schools in the couple years before I returned. And they were like, we're not having this. Like, if the hills can have good schools where kids get great education, the flatlands can too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the parents in Oakland were upset, they were angry, and they were looking for some change and solutions. And I got to be part of the first school that was a community-based small school in Deep East Oakland, called Acorn Woodland. I was there as a teacher. I started off. It was a disaster. It was a mess. But every year we looked ourselves in the mirror and we said, how can we get better so we can actually serve our students better? So every year we made really significant changes, growth. And I'm proud to say, after the first couple of years, we were the most improved school in California.
Wow.
But we started at the bottom, though.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so we started at the bottom, we got to like the
Y'all put some,
middle.
y'all put some work.
Yeah, we put in the work, we got to the middle. And then I was there for 10 years. The year I left, we were a California Distinguished School. So I was really proud because we started in a place, but we were dissatisfied. We knew we could do better. We knew we must do better. And together we kept trying to figure out how do we keep getting better. The thing I will say about Acorn Woodland that I think is really important is we did that work with our parents.
Mm.
Okay? As a first year teacher, I did home visits with every parent in my class. Did I know what I was doing as a teacher? No. But I knew I needed to go talk to parents whose kids were in my classroom so that we could establish a strong partnership. And we kept that tradition alive. We worked with parents as a real pillar of our community. When we had a new academic initiative, we talked to parents about it. We got them involved in it. They were partners in it. We were not leaving parents out of the equation in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lesson is something I have personally tried to carry with me because it works. If you want to change the outcomes in education, you got to work with the family.
Yeah.
You got to that has to be part of your mental model.
Awesome. So through your work, being a teacher, being a principal, what recommendations would you give to other teachers and principals out there, especially in Oakland?
For sure. One, I just would first just appreciate and love on everyone who's choosing to be in our classrooms right now and running schools. It's really hard work. It's really important work. So I just first send all of them much respect, for the jobs that they're doing and choosing for our kids. And then I would just say, for teachers and principals, we come across this every day. They're like, oh, parent power. That doesn't actually sound great. And so I think we got to kind of change the paradigm, which is actually you are really unlocking and unleashing and tapping into potential power you have in your classrooms and schools. It can really help energize your educational goals for kids. So to me, I'm like, you got to put some work in, but the return is so amazing. We know we just cannot overcome the crisis in reading and math that we have for our Black and Brown students. We cannot overcome that single-handedly. We've got to be in allyship and partnership. And so putting in that energy to create partnership with families, you're going to get 10 times in return. So that's what I would say is like, you got to give it a chance to work because it will help you accomplish in general what you care about for kids.
Awesome. Thank you. And is that really what led you to want to, to kind of develop fear in that sense?
Well, we've had some times in our town where people felt they could speak for black and brown parents, and it was something that made me so deeply uncomfortable, because I think it really disrespects and dishonors parents when folks are out there speaking for them. And I believed that that needed to change in this political discourse. We were also just, we're not talking about our kids. We were talking about this versus that, in conflict against you. Who can we scapegoat and who can we blame? Those are conversations that never go anywhere if we actually really care about education. And so we started Families in Action because Oakland families are powerful, but they did not have enough seat at the table. And so we wanted to build up the leadership of our Oakland families to really sit at that table and to be really influential. And, we have Oakland families that are like, wait, Kimmy, we know more than the school board members do about this facilities issue. And I'm like, you're right, which is probably why you should run one of these days. And so we saw a tremendous disservice happening, and we tried to really fill a gap by really creating a space. And when there's not a space, you got to throw some elbows, and right, you got to find your space to the front to be able to sit at that table, and that's what we help our families and youth do.
Awesome. And how would you say, as of right now, FIA is raising the bar?
Great question. So, a couple ways. I'm really proud um, of just the civic power. Our families are so involved in school board races. They're so involved with better in knowing the candidates, which to me is like democracy in action. Like candidates are represented to elect. I'm sorry, candidates are elected to represent a community. So it makes me feel so good when we have grassroots folks from our community really engaging with people who are running for office or in office, because that's really what the system, that's what it's ideally supposed to promote, right? So we're helping that to happen. Second, I would say our city, 2 in 10 black and brown students can meet the California standard in reading. This is an emergency. We have got to do everything we can as a city. The health of our city, the safety of our city, the longevity of our city depends on us actually figuring out how to flip that data so it's that 8 of 10 black and brown students are reading on grade level. And we know prisons look at third grade reading and they plan out how many beds they're going to need in prisons. We've got to interrupt that, and we've got to start early. And one thing I'm really proud of is our Lit for Literacy work. So there, we're really building that parent power. We're really helping people find affinity as parents and find the strength in their stories, not only their own education story, but the goals they have for their kids. But then we marry that with helping families understand, what does the reading data look like at your school? How are black kids doing at your school in reading, and brown kids? Is that where you want it to be? What are the different grade levels looking like? And what is your child's data looking like? So we give them the tools and the visibility, the transparency, so that they can really be agents in their kids' education. So I love Lit for Literacy because
Mm-hmm.
I think it adds value not only to teachers' work, to principals' work, but it just adds so much value to a family to have a parent who's engaged and super knowledgeable and really able to make that difference.
When we were first starting that like Lift for Literacy stuff, I remember I was asked to like make some calls to parents,
Yeah,
right? And I rarely get the opportunity to work with parents, so it
yeah,
was like cool, it was exciting. And after talking to all the parents, a majority of them, if not all, right, when I was asking them, hey, like, why are you interested in joining?
yep,
What do you know about it so far?
yep,
All of them just really wanted to learn how they can support their children. They're
yeah,
like, I just want to learn.
totally.
I just want to know how to help her, him more. So I thought that was super like empowering for me to hear, because it makes me feel like I'm doing the right work and our team is doing the right work as well,
That's right.
right? Because we're passing along information.
That's right. And like parents want to help their kids, and they often don't have access to the information they
Right.
need or the strategies they need to be able to actualize that goal that they have. We know less than 50% of the families who come into the institute actually understand where their child's reading in relation to grade level. So, right, like without that information, how do you actually help your child excel if you don't even quite know where they currently are? We believe we've got to bridge that gap. And once parents get that information, they're unstoppable. They're
Mm-hmm.
unstoppable, even if they don't read themselves. they find ways they can help. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, it's about giving those tools and resources, right?
That's right.
So we've talked about civic power. We've talked about Live for Literacy. What else is FIA doing, Kimmy?
So the work we actually started from the beginning is really, shouting from the mountaintops and talking about college eligibility in our city. And that really looked like getting the word out about data, which students are actually graduating high school in our city and eligible to apply to a four-year college, right? Even just be able to apply, not even that you're going to get in or you're going to go, because that's really a measure of how healthy is our system. If Black and Brown students aren't finishing high school with that eligibility to even apply to college, we know we know we got to do better, right, as educators and as a system. So we've been doing that work. We've been out talking to youth, making sure they understand how their school is doing, making sure they see their own data. But I'm so proud because, with your leadership, we've just grown that work so much. So it's not you leading it anymore. It's not me and Charles leading it anymore. Our youth is actually leading that work these days. And that's so exciting for me that's what we believe in. We believe there's so much leadership in our communities. Let's tap in. And that's what we're doing this year, is really tapping into the youth leadership. And they're so fired up teaching their peers, hey, how do you make sure you don't get trapped and have this gatekeeper close on you? How do you make sure you know what that gatekeeper is and you're advocating for yourself and getting access to the courses or remediation or credit recovery that you need, so you're actually going to be eligible? It's so fun.
Yeah, and what I really love is that they're not just teaching their school, they're also going to other schools and doing these workshops.
Yeah.
So I find that super dope because, it just goes to show how important A through G is. It's not a charter issue or a district issue. It's an all student issue. Like, overall, as an Oakland community, we got to do better when it comes to A through G completion.
And can I just can I build on your point about that? Which is, I think as a city, when we can look across our data, one, we don't look at our data enough, right? So these inequities are kind of invisible because we don't actually talk about the data enough. That's another part of the work that we do, is elevating what really matters for our kids, and that literacy, that math, and that college eligibility. But I think as a city, when we look at that data and we see major gaps between 80% of white kids achieving a thing and 45% of Black and Latino kids, that's everybody's issue to work on. You know what I mean? That's not just Black people's issue, brown people's. We have to actually work on that together as a city. And Oakland just has tension around this because we talk a lot of talk, but there's not actually a lot of action. We talk, oh, we're this anti-racist, this and that. Well, that's actually something we can unite and work on, is college eligibility, literacy, and math. And we don't really find ourselves taking enough action because there's just, to me, I hear a lot of talk that we're progressive, and I hear a lot of talk that we believe in, Black Lives Matter. I want to see the action. And I think that's what Families in Action is bringing, is we're bringing we're here doing stuff about it today. We're here building more leadership for that cause. And that's why I just say, join us. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to talk that anti-racist talk, come get involved in something that's actually moving our kids and our families forward.
And if you were to think about like the bigger picture for FIA down the line, what is it that you want to gain, or what is it that you want? Where do you want FIA to go?
Well, we really want to see these outcomes change, right? We're not we're like, feeling good is not our objective. We like to feel good, but we really want to see the outcomes change for our students. So we're not going to rest until that happens, and that's what we hold ourselves accountable for. Like, college eligibility has to get better, math has to get better, and reading has to get better. And we're going to be relentless, right, until those things happen. And we're going to relentlessly use parent power and youth power to change those outcomes. The other thing I'll just say is, last year we had a group of parent leaders unite, run a facilities campaign. They unlocked $28 million for their school community that was stuck in there's politics around it. That parent power, they were so persuasive. They got that $28 million unlocked. So I just think in 2023, if we unlock $28 million with parent power, maybe 2024, it's $100 million. You know what I'm saying? I just think the future is bright.
And I feel like, just that you brought that up, it really goes back to that parent power, right? And it's like that, it's kind of going back to, as a principal, you got to put in work, but like, what you get in return could be so much larger.
Totally.
Because what they were able to do there was absolutely amazing, right? And I think being able to see that from the outside lens, right? Because I wasn't really engaged in that campaign.
Yeah.
It was just super dope to see how what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah. And just to build on that, I will say the parents that won that campaign, they haven't stopped,
Hmm.
because once your leadership light bulb goes on, it stays on. And so the parents who ran that campaign, one of them told me, Marlene, she's like, Kimmy, now that we won this, she's like, I know I can do anything. And I'm like, girl, you're right. You
Hmm.
can't, because you can. And she's now started the Latino Family Council at Cox. She's leading academic trainings with other parents at her school. That's what she did after that $28 million that she won. So I just think it's like, to your point, when you invest a little to create space for parent power, you get so much back.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked about civic power, A through G, live for literacy. Is there anything else, Kimmy, on the FIA side and what they're doing?
I feel like this is a test. Then I'm forgetting something on my
I'm
notes.
quizzing you.
um, the last thing I want to talk about is just raising the bar in general. Okay. Earlier, I just talked about, right, we have these incredible racial disparities in this most progressive West Coast city, right, Oakland. We believe that's unacceptable. And our Raise the Bar campaign is really about, we got to raise the bar. We can't accept this status quo that we're in right now. So we do a couple things. We just did a study session with our parents on the board, and we asked them to help us design our 2024 school quality report. And we talked to them about what's their input on how we would actually sort schools and how we would kind of rate schools. So we're getting ready to launch that report, and that's every year we actually put out a report, because we believe our city has to take ownership and responsibility over this data. And the report really lets us illuminate, right, where are schools where we are meeting the standard for Black and Latino students, whether it be in math, in reading, or in college eligibility. Where are schools that, hey, they're not meeting the goal yet, but they're making good progress? And then where are the schools that need some support and shine some light and support on those schools because they're not meeting the standard or making the growth? So raise a bar for us is we got to get the word out. So we're going to be putting out our report, and then we're also going to be celebrating schools.
Awesome. So we're going to be celebrating a couple of schools, two
Yep.
weeks,
Yep.
right? And there's some schools that committed last year,
Yep.
which was super exciting.
Yeah.
And there's some schools that we're hoping to commit this year. Any thoughts about those schools and some schools that are actually already committed?
I'm so proud. We had about 20 schools step up last year. Our parents launched the report last year. They called the school leaders in the room. There was 20 school leaders in the room. I was so proud of them. The parents are like, "Will you stand with us to raise the bar?" And first, what we mean by that is you're sharing that data with all the families in your school. Families must know how schools are performing. Two, you're making sure every individual family knows how their child is doing. And three, that the families have something they can do about that at home. So those were our three asks. The families put that call out. I'm telling you, 20 school leaders literally jumped out of their seats, put their hands up, and they're like, "We're with you. We want to raise the bar with you." So we're coming back to celebrate those schools where we actually have a lot of great artifacts of how they've done that work over the last year. And I can't wait to celebrate them on March 28th. We're going to be inviting more schools to join them in these phenomenal data practices, join them in these phenomenal practices of sharing data with families at conferences, doing different things to share, academic strategies. So I'm proud of them, but you know what? There's more room at that table. So we're excited to have more schools join us.
Yeah, definitely more schools. Now, the last question I have for you, Kimmy, is what are the key takeaways you want the community to leave with?
So when I think about the health of our community, I'm Oakland ride or die. I've been in Oakland for more than 40 years. This is like my town. I care about it so much, and I just don't see a bright future for Oakland unless we figure out how to really activate the incredible families and youth of Oakland in as future leaders of this city. So I invite everybody, like, come check us out, find out what we do, bring your special sauce to what we do. We share all of the work that we do. It's literally all online because we just want to cultivate more and more folks that see families as agents of their children's education and as capable leaders. And so we just invite people to walk on that journey with us.
And when the report's out, where can they find that, Kimmy?
Great. Well, first of all, you should come to our big release party. We're going to have mocktails, dinner. The report will be released. It's going to be a really fun night. So hopefully folks can join us on March 28th at Learning Without Limits, 6 p.m. Doors open at 5:30. And the report will be online. We've put out some preview blogs, so you can look those up. But we'll have the report on our website once it's out.
Awesome. Well, like always, Kimmy, I definitely appreciate the moment for us to just take a step back, conversate. Any last thing you want to share before we wrap it up?
I want to share that thank you so much for the opportunity, and I just will say I'm so proud of you, Javi. Just thank you for continuing to grow and push yourself and become amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.